MLB DFS Quick Pitch Podcast. I am James Grande, joined by Howard Bender, not joined by John Pemba, who lost all his money and, self-respect in Las Vegas this weekend. Howard, what's going on, brother? Happy Monday.
I could have sworn that when I was talking to him, that he was singing No Diggity, but I guess it was No Dignity is what's going on with Mpemba now. So, yeah, bachelor party, losing all his money playing in Vegas, and then and drinking his sorrows away at the swim up bar or wherever he was.
Yeah. I saw the picture. Him and Coop both picked. It was very cute. They both posted it together. They were like, "Hey Coop, hey John, let's post it at the same time. 3, 2, 1. Okay, posted." I don't know if you saw that on Twitter too, but
so romantic.
It was very romantic. Coop and John out there in Vegas. John might come back. Hopefully, he doesn't have the tattoo over the eye like Mike Tyson. But we'll see. We'll have to wait and see on Monday's live stream here at 5 p.m. Eastern, where you can get your questions answered live by me and John on the Better Sports Network, presented by Fantasy Alarm. 7 games here on Monday, Howard. Pretty interesting slate. Doesn't look like any true weather. We don't have Coors Field to deal with. Just looks like our standard run-of-the-mill 7-game slate, which is the wheelhouse for, I think, everyone around here at Fantasy Alarm. Starts getting over 10? No. 7, though, perfect amount of games, I think.
I agree. I definitely agree. Yeah, when you can limit your options. I mean, first of all, I hate getting pigeonholed into having to invest in Coors. That's always a pain in the ass. So yeah, now you're cutting it down here. 7. It's going to be interesting. Some good pitching on the top end, some really suspect pitching on the bottom end. So lots of stuff to investigate here.
Yeah, and let's investigate Vegas first and just see if there's anything that stands out. I would say in terms of money line favorites, we still don't have 2. Actually, we do. San Francisco, have they announced a starting pitcher? Do we have that on the board? Alex Cobb projected to start according to DraftKings. Mm-hmm. Okay, I was looking at where I'm looking doesn't have a listed starter, so I was unsure. But St. Louis opened as a -125 favorite there. The biggest favorite I'm seeing on the board thus far, Spencer Strider and the Braves taking on the Miami Marlins, -240 at home over on DraftKings Sportsbook, -250 on Caesar Sportsbook, if even, juicier odds there. -210 for the Angels taking on the Oakland Athletics. Jose Suarez in that game. I swear, Jose Suarez has been a big favorite like every time he's pitched this year, and he has not been good, except for the Yankee start, of course, when we stacked against him. But nevertheless, Chris Bassett and the Toronto Blue Jays, -170 at home, taking on Lance Lynn and the Chicago White Sox. And that's really it in terms of notable Vegas favorites. And before I even look at over-unders, I almost can say with certainty that there's not going to be anything that stands out. Okay.
There's one game. There's one game that has double digits, and that's Arizona against Kansas City, which I find incredibly funny considering just how bad Kansas City is.
Right. I was actually shocked. I knew they were bad, but I didn't realize they were Oakland bad until I looked yesterday, and I was like, oh, both of these teams are 4-16. That is, if you were to ask me blindly, oh yeah, the Royals are double the Oakland's wins. No, not the case. Yeah, that's interesting. And that's interesting that we get a 10. This might be the first 10-run total outside of Great American, outside of Wind and Wrigley, or outside of Coors Field. I haven't remembered many 10-run over-unders thus far yet this season, Howard. Am I off? This is high for a game outside of those 3 environments.
I think, yeah. I mean, I think it is as well. I mean, I know Arizona, kind of plays to, I don't even know what they call the field in Arizona anymore. Is it still Chase Field?
I think it is, but also fields are changing. Yeah, it looks like it's Chase Field still.
So, I mean, that definitely plays, favorable to hitters. The problem that I have, obviously, is that Arizona's offense isn't really, something, to scream about, and neither is Kansas City. So, even though Kansas City, I mean, they're facing, what's his name? Tommy Henry, who's, just called up. but he's a lefty, and Kansas City, believe it or not, Kansas City actually hits lefties better than they hit righties. Not by a lot, but they still do. From a betting standpoint, I'm actually kind of looking at the potential of just taking the under on there. I mean, I haven't looked into the bullpens and see whose bullpen has been really really horrific. Kansas City's, now that I'm looking right now. Kansas City's bullpen second worst in the majors right now with a 6.69 ERA. Arizona with a 4.92 ERA. That's actually the seventh highest
Ooh,
of everybody. So maybe that's kind of what they're looking at. They expect Brad Keller and Tommy Henry to give up a couple of runs, but even just getting into the bullpens, I guess they're expecting some big things. I don't necessarily know if I would bet the over in that game, but
right.
it's definitely something to take a look at, because I don't think, even with the high run expectancy, I don't really think that there's going to be anybody who's going to be so outrageously priced that we
Right.
don't want to maybe get like a little piece of something.
Agreed. And Brett, for what it's worth, Brad Keller's been pretty good. Outside of his last start, he's been pretty good to start the year too. Kansas City has had some breakouts in the past couple of years, notably last year, Brady Singer. Maybe this time around, it's Brad Keller. 9.5 in Oakland, LA is a juicy total as well. Ken Waldachuk was good last time out, ex Yankee farmhand, but has given up a lot of home runs thus far early on in goings, early on in the season. So
Yeah, but Angels run production, I mean, have you looked at them over the last several games? I mean, the Angels really have not been
nope.
producing. They scored four today, four on Sunday against the Royals, and eight the day before that in a losing effort. But then it was like 2 runs, 3 runs, 2 runs, 5 runs, 5 runs, 1 run. It's like all of a sudden, so these bats really aren't taking off as much as you would like to
Sure.
think that they would.
I think things get a little interesting here, and we'll talk about Waldachuk and the Angels because they have a lot of hitters in their lineup that profile good against left-handed pitchers, and they have for quite a while. I mean, just to rattle off a couple without the obvious names, which I think no one needs to sit here and tell you Trout, Otani, Ward, um, but Brandon Drury, Luis Rengifo, they've both hit lefties extremely well in the past, and Anthony Rendon as well. So we'll get into it. Let's get into pitching right now. Spencer Strider topping the list, significantly more expensive than anyone else, $1,400 more. Can the two-pitch guy continue to just pitch with 2 pitches and be successful? The answer has been third pitch and 9 strikeouts in each start. And then it kind of drops off. We have Jordan Montgomery, 9,500 in San Francisco. Obviously, a good pitching environment. And then Sonny Gray against his old ball club here in Minnesota, hosting the Yankees, 9,300. How do you assess this top tier? 2 of those guys have been really good. Montgomery was really good until his last start against the Arizona Diamondbacks. How do you break down this top tier, Howard?
I mean, all three have been doing,
Right.
extremely well for the season, including Sonny Gray. Do I want to use Sonny Gray against the Yankees? Nah, I don't know. For 9,300, it does seem a little on the pricey side.
Right.
I'll tell you what, I would probably do one of two things, because as we go through the rest of this pitching slate, I'll just tell you flat out. Spoiler alert, James. I think it sucks. I think the
It,
choice of pitchers
it
is
does.
absolute hot trash.
It
And
does.
so I'm probably going to be looking at building lineups that go with Spencer Strider, and then I'll pay all the way down for little Tommy Henry or something like that and pay nothing for
Ooh.
him.
Right.
And basically, punt that second pitcher spot. Because really, he doesn't really have to do a whole lot. If he can get me, we said this about Tyler Wells the last time we had this stream. If he can get me 5 innings, give up maybe 2 or 3 runs, and give me like a small handful of strikeouts, he's easily paying off his salary. Anything else on top of that is gravy. So, I'll pay up for Strider, because that strikeout potential against Miami is just, that's going to be so tough to pass on. It's going to be so
Ag-
tough to pass on. But then I
Agreed.
might kind of think about it and say, we were just talking about that Kansas City Arizona game. How nice would it be just start both Montgomery and Gray, and then get in those the bargain bats off of that game?
It would be nice. And San Francisco is very susceptible to left-handed pitching. Remember this last time we were talking, Howard? That one, who was that Mets pitcher that I was
Peterson?
like,
Oh, dude, he
no,
got
no, no. No, the other one.
Oh, Joey Lucchese.
Lucchese. Joey Lucchese looked pretty dang good in that start. But and it's not. I'm not patting myself on the back just to like, but it's goes to like what we were talking about just with San Francisco's offense. They are a bunch of lefty bats that hit righties well, but they just strike out a boatload. 30.2% against lefties this year. And that's just going up. Like that was maybe 2 percentage points lower than the last time we did this did the podcast. So it's only getting worse. So like
Well, hey, you clearly did not watch the game against David Peterson on Saturday then, because I invested in the Mets on the money line because I was
oh,
like, it's Peterson. If Lucchese can dominate these guys, well, certainly David Peterson can, right? Wrong. That dude looked terrible against the Giants. I'll still go back to Montgomery 100%, but man, that was a little disappointing there with San Francisco.
Saturday was a boxing night for me, Howard. I was heavily invested in the Ryan Garcia Tank Davis fight. So uh, everything else was shelved. It was a boxing Saturday. So but it doesn't surprise me. David Peterson's really good and really bad from one start to the next. Speaking of really good and really bad, we've seen the best of Lance Lynn. We've seen the worst of Lance Lynn over the last couple of years. This version of Lance Lynn is not that good and has a very tough spot against Toronto here, giving up a ton of hits, a ton of walks. Everything is trending downwards for Lance Lynn, who's getting up there in age. On the flip side of this matchup, Chris Bassett has looked pretty good after his first start. 2 earned runs or less, 3 straight quality starts, 5+ strikeouts. He gets the White Sox, who, are okay. And Alex Cobb is the 8K tier. Like any of those guys interest you? Like for me, it would be Bassett in this tier.
Yeah, that's
Probably
about
it.
it.
Yeah, that's it. For sure.
That's it.
Where does Bassett like? I guess amongst the first 6 guys, right? 8K and up. Where does Bassett rank for? Where would you rank him? Because I agree, Strider is the must of the bunch. Like he is my number one. Obviously, he's priced like that way, and I think on a per dollar basis, Bassett might be my second favorite. With how he's looked in his last 3 starts.
Yeah, I would say, the White Sox are dealing with their issues on their own. I've got a lot of Bassett in season long, so of course, the beginning of the season is really kind of, shaking me a little bit. But yeah,
Right.
I wouldn't mind investing in Bassett for this slate. For $8,000 on DraftKings, or if you're going to just use them as a solo shot in FanDuel. Yeah, I would probably do that. I don't know if I rank him above Montgomery, but I definitely would rank him above Gray.
Okay, cool. I think that's a fair, like, whoever you want to put second and third. That's probably like, depending on you say $1,500 to Bassett, he has the advantage. The strikeout upside probably favors Montgomery against San Francisco. So I love both spots. What about below 8K? You mentioned the Tommy Henry play. He didn't look great in 9 major league starts last year. Hasn't looked great in AAA, but you also have to factor in he plays in the PCL, right?
Right.
That's tough to like quantify at times when everyone's hitting 400 and then they come up to the majors like, oh, why isn't he hitting 400 anymore? And everyone has a 6 ERA. They come in, it's like shut down. Like, oh, why doesn't he stink anymore? Like, it's like pitching in Coors,
Right.
and then leaving Coors. But what about below 8K? Like anything pique your interest at all?
To be brutally honest, no. Again, the only names down there, because listen, Edward Cabrera needs more work, and I'm not going to put him out there against that Atlanta lineup.
No.
Keller is hit or miss, and we're expecting a high game total there. So do I really want to try and invest in that? Probably not. Rhea, no. Brito, no. Boyd against Milwaukee, that could be somewhat interesting. I haven't looked at Milwaukee's numbers against lefties though, so it's like middle of the road. There's nothing There's nothing. Oh no, they're
They're
pretty bad
bad.
against. They're
No,
bad. Look at that,
they're
32%
bad.
strikeout rate too.
That was a great like they're middle. No, they're at no. Wait, no,
Like all
they're
of a sudden in
horrible.
real time.
They're horrible. They're horrible. Yeah,
Well,
no,
so there you go. Do you try it out? Do you try going with Boyd against Milwaukee? I mean, he's a tough sell too, but
he
I
has a
guess
tough
at you know what, at 6,600, he's probably got better strikeout upside than both Suarez or Henry.
Yeah. What I like about Boyd kinda is the pitch count is obviously on the rise, right? Like he's coming back from I mean he only made 10 starts last year. Pitch count on the rise. Expected ERA about in line with his ERA. So he's pitching to like what he is. 40% ground ball rates, fine. Not a lot of hard contact against him though. Only 23%, which I like. Um, I don't know. Like we talked about the Brewers. I'm going to say this about the Brewers until game 162 and beyond. Like they are a boomer bust team through and through.
Mhm.
They are a team that could go out there and blast their way to 10 runs and have 5 home runs, and it wouldn't be surprising. And then they could get shut out by the Matt Boyds of the world, and that really wouldn't be surprising either because that's just what their offense is now. That's how they built their roster. So yeah, I guess Matt Boyd. Jose Suarez is the has the second best odds in Las Vegas. If you want to, you know, take that for what it's worth, like minus 210 against Oakland. Is Jose Suarez the best odds down here to get a win? I don't know. He hasn't even gotten through 5 innings. So
Right.
I guess it's Boyd. I could see a case for Suarez. Johnny Brito has to face his demons of the 7-run first inning against Minnesota the last time that he faced off against them. So can't really go there. So yeah, it's probably Boyd or Suarez, and maybe a
Or
dart on top.
Henry. Listen, you know what? Henry looked good in his last start against Salt Lake.
Okay.
Only allowed 2 earned runs in 6 innings, struck out a batter per inning. So I mean, again, I'd probably just stay with Boyd, but if you really wanted to play all the way down there I mean, come on, 5K,
Yeah.
5K for a pitcher, it's free.
It's free. So let's just hypothetically, we can just build our lineup at the end. But if we like, just for example, if we were to go Strider Henry, almost 4,300 a player, that feels good going into you have catcher where you're likely going to spend down and all that stuff. So I agree. Tommy Henry in our player pool. Kansas City, we don't think much of Kansas City's offense despite that 10-run total. And we can get to catcher where we have a member of the Kansas City offense at 4,800. Sean Murphy, 5K. Wilson Contreras, 45. MJ Melendez left Sunday's game with a lower back tightness, so we'll have to see. It's a lefty anyway. But what do you make of this top tier? I guess it's only 3 guys at this point. If Melendez doesn't play, so what do you make of Murphy, Salvi, and Wilson Contreras here, Howard?
I guess it's okay. I mean, there's nothing great about it. There really isn't. Like, none of the top tier really do it for me. I think you can make a case for Perez. You can make a case for Murphy.
Right.
I'd probably, I'm probably only paying up a catcher like we were talking about Rutschman the other day.
Right.
Like that's the catcher I'm paying up for. If I'm looking down, at this right here, and you've got Murphy, Perez, and Contreras are my top guys, I might as well just pay down a catcher and just bulk up, in the other spots.
I agree. So if we're not spending up, what are we looking at? Alejandro Kirk, 3,400 looks very good.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't been the same. He hasn't shown the same pop this year, but coming alive. 900 OPS over his last 10 games. Ryan Jeffers has been good when he's been in the lineup. We'll see with a righty on the mound if he cracks the lineup. Danny Jansen hit a Yankee Stadium 2-run double on Sunday. Like, what are we thinking for this sub 4K tier?
Anything below 4K. I mean, listen, I like Kirk the most out of the guys that you just mentioned.
Agreed.
I'm looking down even further. Actually, I'm looking at like
Okay.
Rogers. This my again. I'm not a Brad Keller fan, despite how he looked in his last start. I wouldn't mind just trying out that Arizona stack. I mean, Marino's 2,700. It's crazy cheap.
He's been quite good lately, by the way. Very good.
So why wouldn't we want
Agreed.
to try and lock in that kind of a bargain?
Agreed. Went into Sunday or into Saturday as the team lead in RBIs. By the way, after his 3 RBIs on Friday. You know, for people who were thinking Gabriel Moreno's probably not the guy, he looks like that guy, pal. He looks like that guy.
He just might be that guy.
He just might be that guy. I saw your boy Matt Tice hit a home run the day
Uh-huh.
after you touted him. Lefty. I don't know if he'll be in the lineup, but Waldichuk's allowed a ton of power. That's probably it, right? You probably don't need to go below Moreno. Like 2,700 just feels good. Wallach homered as well in his one start. Maybe he starts against Waldichuk. Any interest if he starts against Waldichuk?
No.
You don't need it's $100 more. You get Moreno. So
Yeah, you don't need to force it.
all right, let's lock. We're probably gonna just lock. Let's lock Moreno in. That's our first lock. That you know what? No, we're going to Strider too. Those were our two. I think we both settled on Strider and Moreno, right? Like,
Right? We'll figure out who we want to pitch second for us.
yeah,
But
well,
yeah, let's go Strider. Let's go Marino. Let's hit first base.
let's hit first base indeed, where Shohei Otani somehow, some way, still registers on the DraftKings uh, platform as a first baseman, which does make it better when you stack the Angels because you don't have to use all your outfielder spots if you don't want to. Um, but we have three 6K guys, and I'll throw Vladdy into the mix too at 5,700. Between Otani, Goldschmidt, Olsen, and Vladdy, what's your favorite flavor at this tier? I know you're sipping on the Matt Olsen Kool-Aid a lot these days, Howard. Is Olsen still your favorite guy at this tier, or who's your guy here?
Listen, against a right-hander, Matt Olson will always be my favorite. But I mean, come on, Vladdy Jr.
Oh,
against
he has
against
been.
a very hittable Lance Lynn.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, I got nothing. He like Vladdy has the quietest 340 average around the league right now. Like he's just casually just back to where he was 2 years ago. And
Yep.
who's even talking? Like there's not. I feel like it's not even. It's like, oh, Vladdy's 340. Okay, that's where we expect him to be. Well, like, dude, he's hitting 340. Like it's insane. You know, he's my guy too. I think Olsen a close second. I actually like using Otani against lefties, and Waldichuk allows a lot of power, so I don't mind going there. Goldschmidt would round up the bottom of that list for me. Under 5K we go. Our boy Joey Gallo homered on Saturday, I believe, or he homered in the snow game on Friday, I think. That was
Yeah,
the game we liked him on that. We liked him
that
that.
was the game that we said. Why would we go with Joey Gallo?
That was the snow game. Uh Joey Gallo loves snow. Apparently, he could see baseballs in snow, or he just swung blindly But facing the Yankees, obviously, he's talked very openly about his time in New York and how much he didn't enjoy it. I'm not going to say there's like revenge narratives in baseball are like the most pointless thing of all time, because baseball is the hardest sport to like actually have some type of revenge in. But he's been really good, and Johnny Brito can serve up the long ball. Any interest going back to Gallo? We used only first base now. He had outfield eligibility the last time we talked.
Yeah, is he only first base now?
Yeah,
Wow,
I
look
know
at
it
that.
kind of takes away the appeal because he had the multi-position eligibility, but yeah, now only first base.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have no problem going to him though here. I mean,
Okay.
save excuse me, save $1,400 off of Vlad if we want. I mean, you just like I'll use Vlad if I'm playing in the cash games, but I'll use Gallo in the GPP tournaments only because he's just got that home run upside. He's an all or nothing guy.
He's got that dog in him. I thought that's where you were going with that one. That would have been perfect. That was he's got that dog in him. You know who has that dog in him? He hasn't showed it yet this year, but we mentioned it earlier. Brandon Jury against lefties has that dog in him, Howard. And I don't love that he now shares a position with Gio Urshela, who now has first base shortstop eligibility. That is the maybe the weirdest first like combination of eligibilities I've ever seen, first and in shortstop. But I love Drury against lefties, and like I know he's been bad, but when you look at the numbers last year against lefties, okay, I'm pulling him up right now. 626 slug, 327 ISO, 403 WOBA against left-handed pitching. Waldichuk has allowed big flies and after big fly to righties this year. Like I'm not. I We're gonna do a home run call at the end of this podcast. I'm not. I might be, giving my hand away right now, and I might be going to Brandon Drury. Am I crazy for liking him at 36, considering how bad he's been, or are you in on Drury as well?
I'm actually you might be a man alone on an island here, my friend. Only
Okay.
because I've just never been a big Brandon Drury fan. And
Okay.
let's face facts, the dude's been around for a while.
He
Last
has
year, he
been.
came from completely out of nowhere
It's
to
fair.
all of a sudden have this great year. But if he was that strong of a player, if he was that consistent of a player, then you would have thought that when the Angels signed him, that they wouldn't then start backing him up with signings like Ursula or
Right.
other moves that they were making in the offseason, which clearly they showed they had no confidence in, in Drury being a full-time player for them. So I'm not a Drury guy. You can have he can be your Joey Lucchese this for today. How about that?
I mean, Joey Lucchese did pretty damn good, so I hope he is. I hope he is. I hope this is my Joey Lucchese.
Players you love that I crap on, as long as they pan out, it's all good.
Right, agreed. As long as they pan out, that is all that matters. And I'm not disputing anything you're saying because you are 100% correct. He also had that year 75% of the time playing in Great American Ballpark before he was traded, right? So like that's also a factor. He was still good against lefties in San Diego, but it was worth mentioning those numbers were pretty astronomical. So I don't dislike him there. Anything for you, Howard? 3,100 Pavin Smith. We have Vinny Pasquantino down here. Wilmer Flores. Like what? Anything down here interests you?
No, not in that range. You can keep scrolling all the way down.
Okay.
Today and only today will probably be the only time that you'll ever hear me say, "Hey, Brandon Belt, only 2,200."
Ooh.
I might
Okay.
be in on that, right? The lefty righty matchup against Lance Lynn. Belt's got 3 hits in his last 4 games. He hit the home run. I think it was Friday's game
Yeah.
that he jacked one and had like 4 RBI in that one.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, maybe if Brandon Belt's waking up even just a little bit for 2,200, I mean, come on, I would do unspeakable things in this world just for $2,200.
Yeah, and Brandon Belt. Anyways,
Yeah. Oh, you had to think about that one for a second, huh?
Brandon, Brandon Belt has been snake bit by a bad ballpark his whole career, and now he gets to a good ball hitting environment, and he's been terrible. It's hilarious, right? Because he's been good in the bad environment, and he's been terrible in the good environment. But maybe things are going to start clicking. Toronto moved the walls in there in their ballpark. Lance Lynn, perfect marriage for a better hitting environment, and I need to break out of a slump. Let me do it for Brandon Belt. So I agree. 2,200. Brandon Belt looks good. I don't hate. I'm gonna. I don't hate Jesus Aguilar.
You don't have to whisper it, man. Come on,
Okay,
be proud of it.
he hit. I had a little interest in Oakland the other night when they lost 47-3 to Texas, and Aguilar actually hit third and hit a home run. I don't know. Like, I don't dislike the top of that Oakland lineup. It's kind of intriguing. Astoria Ruiz is a lot of fun. Who's the second baseman they just called up? Um, Jordan Diaz. He's been good since being called up, and Brent Rooker has been like a surprise, I think, to every single human being with all the power that he's flashed. So Aguilar, I don't dislike more so because of the matchup. Jose Suarez stinks. He stinks. Although he's 210 on the money line, he's not good. So Aguilar should be in the middle of that lineup. That's we're getting dirty. Yours is Belt, mine is Aguilar. On to second, where we can clean up a little bit. Thairo Estrada, 5,500 multi-position eligibility. He's been very good for the Giants this year. Ozzy Albies, historically better from the right side, will hit lefty here, but the power has been there for Albies. Gleyber Torres has been meh lately. Nolan Gorman has been awesome. Luis Arias has been awesome. Ketel Marte's here in a good game environment. How do you assess this 4K and up tier?
Um, I mean, if I'm not using Montgomery, then I'll probably be able to look at Estrada. 5,500 for Estrada, though, it does seem a little bit high. I mean, I
It
know
is
he's been
for
having
sure.
a good season. I agree with you. I like to hit Albies when he's going up against the lefty. I don't necessarily know if I want to use Gleiber against Sonny Gray.
Yeah, no.
The Nolan Gorman call is to me, I think that's a fantastic call. I'm a big fan of Nolan Gorman. It's just straight power.
Yep.
I like that a lot, and because I'm not going to use Arias against Strider,
No.
that
No.
would just be silly.
No. I like Ketel Marte,
Yeah,
but I think Gorman for 300 more makes more sense. He's been awesome. And who knew what they were going to do? Like, they have so many guys on that team, but they just can't take Nolan Gorman out of the lineup because he's hitting. So as long
yeah.
as he's going to continue to hit, he's going to be in the lineup every day. Big day for Jorge Polanco on Sunday. He has returned. I'm just saying, I tweeted it out. Anyone can go to my Twitter. It's right here on the screen. _real_grande. I said, Minnesota, the highest implied run total. What? Just be prepared for them to let us all down. And what do? They scored 3 runs. Yes, that is. Yep, there you go. There you go. Nice, nice.
I'm just telling everybody, mind the underscores.
Yes, yes.
Mind the underscores here.
Listen, I was gonna get rid of the underscores, and then Justin Fensterman came up with this great segment on SiriusXM and deemed me the king of the underscore, and it felt so good, It was the king of something, Howard. So I had to keep it,
Okay.
But the king of being good lately, Jorge Polanco, 5 hits in his last 3 games. Only 3 games he's played this year, but had the home run on Sunday. Look, he was really good 2 years ago. He was really mediocre last year, but he's a good baseball player. Wasn't in the lineup last time they faced Johnny Brito. I kind of like Jorge Polanco quite a bit at 3,900.
I agree. I think that Polanco at 3,900 is a great call. And the best part is that he just came back from the IL and he started off hot. So you kind of want to ride this momentum for a little while, and don't worry about it. If he goes 0 for 4, okay, but 3,900, it's not the worst thing in the world for you to have to pay for that. But I mean, he's always been, in the seasons that he's done well, he's hit for a good average. He's got some power. I'm a big Jorge Polanco fan. I love him here at 3,900. And yeah, I like that $500 discount that you get off of Nolan Gorman, because I think you can get more out of Polanco than Gorman. Gorman, you're just hoping for a 1 for 4 with a home run.
Agreed. Against the ground ball pitcher and Alex Cobb. If Alex Cobb is keeping the ball down, there's no home run coming. So Johnny Brito, we saw,
I think you should I think personally,
because
I've looked at the rest of this position. I might lock in Polanco.
I'm down to lock him in. I have a couple names to throw your way. I want to throw a couple names at you and see what you think.
Let's see.
And I'm not saying they're better plays than Polanco, but just for the people at home not wanting to play Jorge Polanco, or for the people that want to play Johnny Brito, whoever the 2 people are that want to play Johnny Brito. Another lefty killer last year, Luis Rengifo, has not been great. He led off on Saturday, then he hit 5th on Sunday. He hit lefties really well last year. Any interest in Rengifo?
I told you, I'm kind of down on this Angels lineup.
Okay.
And the fact that they couldn't even cover the run line against Kansas City on Sunday, like, I'm sorry, man. That's esta no bueno, papi.
I wonder if this is there's something going on here. Doesn't cover the run line. Doesn't let. I think they. Okay, that's okay. Okay.
Man,
Second name I'll
I
talk.
am a "what have you done for me lately" type
Agreed.
guy. I'm
Agreed.
sorry.
No,
I'm
I agree.
sorry.
Someone who has done pretty well lately since being called up, Jordan Diaz for Oakland, hitting second in their lineup, has a hit in 4 straight games, RBIs in 3 of the 4, 2 extra base hits. Any love 27. I'm not gonna sit here and say that we should stack Oakland, but if you wanted to get dirty and needed value, Aguilar, the top 4 of their lineup, think it could be worse than those 4 guys. And Jordan Diaz hitting second isn't the worst at 2,700.
Well, I'll tell you what, because if you want to speak about it in relation to lineup construction,
Right.
if you wanted to build a lineup and you wanted to use, let's say, Strider and Bassett or Strider and Montgomery,
Montgomery. Yep.
then you're going to have to find ways to pay down. Now, we've identified Moreno as super cheap. We both like Vlad, but I'm like, ooh, hey, 2,200 for Brandon Belt, which says, you know what, I can pay up for Polanco. But if
Right.
I wanted to go Vladdy Jr. as my first baseman, then screw it, man. Pay all the way down to Diaz and save yourself a few bucks. Because I mean, listen, if there's a position where you're going to be able to punt it, second
Right.
base is definitely a position that's a very puntable position.
Right.
So if you wanted to go down there, you just have to say, all right, well, you're going to commit then to paying up for Vladdy at first base.
Right. And we know as we move on to third base, perfect transition. Third base is always a position that has a lot of top talent. Maybe not today. I mean, Nolan Arenado's here, Austin Riley, Matt Chapman, slightly below them, Josh Rojas, Anthony Rendon, DJ LeMahieu. Any of those names stand out? I love Austin Riley against both splits. He hits righties, he hits lefties, but 5,800 is. I would rather spend 5,700 for Vladdy if we could only pick between the two. I don't hate the idea of going Matt Chapman to start a Blue Jays stack because I think there's an outfielder that we're both going to like on the Blue Jays as well, who hit a home run against the Yankees on Sunday. Sad. But Chapman 52, like anything above 4K that stands out.
Are you wait, what part of Toronto are you stacking? Are you stacking Springer, Vladdy,
Varsho?
Oh, Varsho.
I'm a Dalton Varsho guy.
You're a
Dalton
big
Varsho.
Varsho guy, huh? Okay.
Yeah, I like Varsho.
Right on.
So Varsho and Lance Lynn at least he's been historically a big cutter guy. Varsho hit a second deck home run off Clark Schmidt's cutter today that sat middle. It just profiles so good for Varsho, just his swing and like the path of his swing. So that's why I was gonna say if we were to do Chapman, you can't in the lineup construction that we had. Like if we did go Montgomery, we couldn't get to Springer unless we probably dropped down to Bassett. I would say because we don't have the money. So Varsho just without looking has been hovering around 4K all year and just profiles good. So back to third though, that was all with the idea of using Matt Chapman, and which I'm not totally for, not against. I was more so asking you is who's your top 4K or above third baseman? For me, it's Chapman because I like the Blue Jays a lot.
So then let's do it, dude. That's that's the thing. I could sit here and tell you why I want to go with Austin Riley or why I want to go with Nolan Arenado. But if you feel that strength in that play for Chapman and you want to do it, I mean, shit, man, let's do it. Let's stack those suckers up and get yourself a little. Here we go. I'm gonna move on it right now. I'm building a lineup while we're doing this. So let's get Vladdy in there. I'm gonna lock Chapman in as well, and I'm gonna put Varsho in there as the 2, 3, 4 hitters.
Yep, 2, 3, 4. Yep.
Okay, leave it
4K
there.
again. He's 4K. Varsho's 4K he's every slate.
And then for second base, I want to pay down for
Jordan Diaz.
Oh, it's not leaving us a ton of money here left.
I know. Well, if we were to not go Chapman, the rest of third, I think, does have some interesting names. Brian Anderson double donged on Sunday. And that goes back to Milwaukee boomer bust type of situation where You get the double dong for Brian Anderson, you're in a very good position. 3,400, pretty good matchup against Matt Boyd. We liked Matt Boyd, but also understand what Matt Boyd is as a pitcher at this point.
Right.
So I think Anderson is a pretty good value, 34. Evan Longoria has been okay. He's been better against lefties, but hey, man, 856 OPS this year for Longoria. I know he's been playing part time, but he's in the lineup. Good over under in that game. And you mentioned you're not fond of Brad Keller. Um, Jake Berger is hitting only home runs. That's all he does. He just hits home runs. Yeah, I mean, I guess it dried up pretty quickly here at third, Howard.
It does dry up quickly, doesn't
It dried up pretty quickly. I mean, Jose Miranda had a good day on Sunday, 2 for 3 with a walk. But, like, other than Brian Anderson, I really don't have, like, I do like Chapman and GPPs because we know what his power upside. And this has been forever the thing with Blue Jay stacks. Nobody plays Matt Chapman. Like, Matt Chapman's just the forgotten guy. So, want to just go with Chapman or Anderson, or what do you think?
I'll go with Chapman. I'll lock him in there because I know that it's gonna. Let's do it with your stack. I'm very curious because you know what? I'm gonna go with a similar stack with a little bit of an alternative to it for you.
Okay.
And we'll just and then I'll just share the lineup with you at the end of this. But let's lock in Chapman because
Okay.
I mean, listen, the rest of the position is hot trash.
Yeah, it's bad.
Hot trash.
So shortstop for us, we won't be able to spend up. But I think you could definitely get to Bichette if that's a way you want to differentiate. Instead of Chapman, you want to go to Bichette at shortstop. That's fine. We talked about a shot already. Willie Adames, I actually like better against righties, but he does get the Matt Boyd matchup at home. He's hit at home very well. Bobby Witt is interesting. Bobby Witt has been really hot lately. He was hitting 341 going into Sunday's game, then homered to extend the hitting streak to 5. I think if you want to get to Bobby Witt, that's fine. But I think we're going to want to live in this sub 4K range. Anthony Volpe, 3,800, continues to get on base. I know Sunday was a tough day for him. First time he hasn't been on base in like 12 games. But I think under 4K, as long as he's under 4K, he's in play. Geraldo Perdomo, Howard, has been surprisingly good this year. No speed, which I think we're kind of like, hey, dude, like, where's the speed? Like, you have all this gap. Anytime you hit the ball in the gap, you're showing off speed, but like, one stolen base. Hello. Vaughn Grissom has been disappointing. Oswald Peraza has looked okay since being called up. What's your thoughts on Short? Another kind of
a crap position here.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of interest here beyond. I don't even know if I want to go with Bichette either, just because I don't want to overinvest too much in in this Toronto lineup. I like the stack that we're working on right now.
Agreed.
Yeah, Damas against the lefty, it's okay. Still pricey at 54. Edmund is always an intriguing option. I'm not a big Alex Cobb fan, so I might look at Edmund as a guy that kind of fills that need. Volpe, as long as he's gonna hit atop that Yankee lineup, should always be in play. Like you said, if he's under 4K.
Those are probably the two guys I'd be interested in, and including Urshela. I know you're not like in on the Angels, but I'm a little more in on the Angels than you. Pick between Volpe and Edmund. Like if we were finishing building this lineup, like Volpe or Edmund for you.
I'd probably go with Edmund then. I think just his experience against Alex Cobb, a lot more significant than, Volpe as a rookie trying to, outwork Sonny Gray, who,
he's been good.
He has been good.
And he's been really good against righties, specifically 176 batting average against, 480 OPS against Sonny Gray this year. Lefties have gotten to him a little bit, but the Yankees are throwing Willie Calhoun and Frankie Cordero out there from the left side. So
bad.
Don't have to worry about that much. Finishing it off at the outfield, we have a plethora of guys over 5K. Talk to me about a couple of your favorites here over 5K, Howard.
Let's see. Over 5K in the outfield.
I mean, Acuna is just absolutely insane.
I mean, like Acuna, Judge, Ohtani, Trout. You can't go wrong with them. It's a matter of, can you afford them?
Agreed.
because you can probably only afford one if you even you're building a legitimate lineup.
Right.
So if that's the case here, I would probably lean Acuna.
He just
Like,
has the highest ceiling, right? Like his ceiling is
yeah,
just higher than everyone else's.
it is. Or you know what though? I mean, Trout at 59
Yep.
against the lefty and Waldichuk, I think that's actually a really nice move as well.
Yeah, Waldichuk this year against righties, Howard, 16 and 2/3 innings. So obviously we're not a big sample, but 15 earned runs, 6 home runs, 347, 422, 653 slash allowed against right-handed bats. Like that is like league worst. Like he's gonna give up Josiah Gray home run numbers if he continues that. Josiah Gray gave up like 40 bombs last year, so I agree. I think and this leads me back to my point at first base with Drury and Rengifo, and like that's why I am a little interested in the Angels, a little more than you, I would say, because we've seen what Waldichuk has done. He looked good his last start. I'm really happy for him. He's looked really bad in all those other starts. So I agree. I think Trout and Acuna for me. When we dip our toes under 5K, Yelich, tough spot against Boyd, lefty, and he's kind of stunk. Taylor Ward homered on Sunday. Buxton stunk it up on Sunday, but he gets Johnny Brito, who has really struggled with righties this year specifically. So Buxton in an advantageous spot. George Springer down to 4,600, huh?
I love that.
That is,
I mean, there are certain guys like when the prices start dropping, I take a much greater interest in them. When you get to a guy where you're just like he's so wildly underpriced. I don't think 4,600 is wildly underpriced, but
he's just always 5K. He's been looking through the he's been under 5K once since April 4th. So pretty much since the season started. Looking at some expected numbers too, Howard. So George Springer has a 272 WOBA, expected WOBA 346, like 230 BABIP, 484 expected slug. Like, just talk about a guy just getting unlucky, right? Like, that's just all these, like, everything suggesting the luck is going to turn. I also think it's very interesting. 44% fly ball rate this year compared to 37 last year. So he's even lifting the ball even more this year. Those walls in Toronto are coming in. So Springer 46. Talk to me. Ooh. Corbin Carroll 4,400. Speak to me, Howard. What do we think? Corbin Carroll 4,400.
Corbin Carroll at 4,400 is very, very nice, especially with that matchup against Brad Keller. There are a couple of guys in here that I'm kind of eyeballing a little bit. And it actually, I started eyeballing him at Hunter Renfroe at 51, but still a little pricey. But Hunter Renfroe at the 51 is the nice spot. Carroll at 44 is really good, like really, really good. Springer at 46 is a solid price as well. That's probably about it. I never like to invest in Jorge Soler.
Nope.
Buxton is always, he's the bane of my existence. I don't need the lefty on lefty crime with Yelich. Carroll's an intriguing guy. He's definitely an intriguing play.
Another stolen base on Sunday. Gives his 8th of the year, 2 for 3 on Sunday. So now 3 multi-hit games over his last 5. And man, Arizona hitting this dude like 7th to start the year is still hilarious to me. Like, what are we doing? Like, just put him in the top half of the lineup immediately, right? Like, he's already your best player. Like, let's just get on with it. I love Corbin Carroll. I mentioned Varsho at 4K. I love Varsho. Mm-hmm. Profile's good in this spot against Lance Lynn. And then we get below 4K. I think we're going to see some names we like. I, at this moment, don't see many. Trevor Larnach is 3,600. Lourdes Gurriel against Brad Keller is 3,600. Where did this dude's power go? Who knows? It's evaporated. Um, what do you see below 4K that piques
I
your
mean, Eloy at 35 is to me
crazy?
also kind
That's
of
crazy.
criminal as
That
well,
is crazy.
right? I mean, you're sandwiching him in between Max Kepler and Brent Rooker.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Don't disrespect Brent Rooker's name
I
like
will
that.
disrespect Brent Rooker all day long, baby, all day.
Brent
So
Rooker.
yeah, it's not a great tier of guys. There's nobody out there who's really like jumping off the page. But you know what? I don't mean to depress you, but scroll further down, and there's really not a whole hell of a lot to like here either.
I don't want to make you even more sad than you already were
I
when you
mean,
were looking.
let's put it this way: if you're gonna lock in Varsho, why isn't Varsho in our lineup? Put Varsho in that
Oh, sorry,
lineup,
sorry, sorry,
buddy.
sorry, 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 sorry. You're right. You're right. You're right.
What you could do is you could if you're into Estuary Ruiz, you could stack against Suarez,
Oh,
and
baby.
using Ruiz probably leaves you with a boatload of money to get a decent bet in there.
We're not gonna have jobs after Monday. We're using Oakland
Recommending an
stacks.
Oakland stack.
You're
That's
gonna
you,
get caught.
dude. That's all you.
Excuse me.
That's not me.
Excuse me. You guys recommended Oakland, right? That was you. That was you guys were the podcast.
No,
Sorry,
that's
we're gonna
yeah.
have to
You
revoke your.
talk to James Grande. He's the one wearing the Brent Rooker jersey right
True,
now.
true. It is underneath my the shirt that I'm wearing. I am wearing my Brent Rooker shirt. I just didn't want to feel. I didn't want to seem biased on the podcast, so I didn't. I wore it underneath my shirt, but it is Brent Rooker. If you're listening, it is underneath my shirt. Um, I mean, I'm okay. I mean, look, I think Astoria Ruiz gets on base, and he is a bottle rocket. We all know how fast the kid is. So fast, right? The one thing we have to worry about is a lefty on the mound. Um, obviously people don't run as much when a lefty's on the mound this year. Everyone's running whenever it doesn't matter who's pitching. Here's my thinking with Astoria Ruiz. Astoria Ruiz can get on, steal a base, score a run. That's 10 fantasy points off the bat, right? You have 10 fantasy points from a guy who's 2,900. We're already using the second hitter. Maybe Jordan Diaz is the guy who drives him in. There you get 5 more fantasy points. You get 15 fantasy points just from them alone. Or if Diaz were to double, it's 17, right? I don't know. I don't hate it.
Okay.
Let's before I fully commit to an Oakland snap. Okay, before we go there, there's nothing, is there? There is actually just nothing. I was really trying to find something to like just keep us away, keep our jobs, keep this thing going strong. But there's nothing. There's nothing.
There's nothing. There's nothing you can do.
But use the story Ruiz. All right, 3,900, Howard. That's.
Listen, I'm okay
I win
with it. I'm okay with it if you are.
Well, here's the thing. Let me ask you this. Let me pose the question. We have 3,900 for this lineup build, which puts us in a spot that I don't think we love. We could always pivot to your guy, Tommy Henry. And then
Oh no. Now you're just ruining shit, dude. Now you just
hear me out. We can either do
I don't want to hear you out.
Okay.
No. Come on. We only have like 5 minutes to go here in the stream, dude. So let me hear you out.
I was thinking if we went Henry, then we didn't have to play Oakland. We have $4,900, which puts us in Hunter Renfroe range. It puts us in Corbin Carroll range. If we played Corbin Carroll, we can get Carroll and Renfroe. But it's all dependent. It's basically Renfroe, Carroll, Henry versus Bassett, Story Ruiz, and a $3,900 outfield. I just didn't feel great about that range of outfielders, right? Like if we played who was the 3,900 outfielder that you wanted? If we go Story Ruiz, he's 2,900. Who is the last piece in here? Is it Larnack?
For 3,900, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we have 3,900 left for one outfield spot.
All right, let me see. Hang on. Let me see. Now I gotta look because I'm doing something. I'm entering I'm just blindly entering contests here, like as if it's no big deal. Let me just go back to assigning that line. Oh nope. Shoot. Damn it. I just screwed that up, man. All right, $3,900 outfielders who I'm looking for.
Yep.
Let's see. I could go Tyler O'Neill. I hope he hits for some power against Cobb. That's fine. Larnock. Yeah, I mean, as a lefty bat against Brito, that's not terrible. I mean,
And then if
why not just go for I guess if we're gonna think about using Bassett, are you using Bassett in that lineup?
Yeah, I could not get to Montgomery in this lineup. That's the problem.
Okay, so then you can't go with Eloy.
So this is why
You're
I
big
pitched
on
the
Brian
idea.
Anderson, dude. You're big on Anderson. What about him?
I like Brian Anderson here. We're not using Boyd, and Boyd is obviously hittable. Like, he's not good this year. Let's see what he's been against righties. Matt Boyd against right-handed bats, 740 OPS, not great, but 338 WOBA is pretty good. Yeah, let's go Brian Anderson. Let's round this lineup out with Brian Anderson.
All right, line it up with Brian Anderson. I like it.
For those listening, not listening on the Better Sports Network, but listening on Spotify, iTunes, and all the other podcast platforms you intake, Spencer Strider, Chris Bassett, Gabriel Moreno, Vladimir Guerrero, Jordan Diaz, Matt Chapman, Tommy Edman, Dalton Varsho, Astoria Ruiz, Brian Anderson, and $500 remaining. Howard, we have like 2 minutes left. What do you think? What do you think about giving me a home run call here?
Well, I'm not.
Oh, you got a lineup?
I got two. I got two.
All right, let's hear your lineup
because they're all pivots off of yours.
Okay.
All right, because your main stack, you've got Vladdy, you've got Varsho, and you've got Chapman in there.
Yep. 2, 3, 4,
right?
2, 3, 4, and then the Oakland 1 and 2, and then that's
so
like
I'm going a little differently here, and I'm going to go with the 3, 4, 5. I'm going to go Chapman, Varsho, Belt as my stack.
Okay.
Okay, so now here's my first lineup, right? Oh, I got to get out of here real quick. First lineup is Strider, Montgomery with Moreno, Belt, Diaz, Chapman, Edman, Trout, Varsho, and Ruiz.
Ooh.
Wait. Here's the other one. Strider, Bassett, Marino, Belt, Polanco, Chapman, Edman, Trout, Varsho, and then I threw a little Jake McCarthy in there. Who knows? Maybe Brad Keller can actually be the one to ignite Jake McCarthy.
I am a Jake McCarthy stan, so I hope so. I hope so.
Well, you got 10 seconds to wrap this shit up then, buddy.
And that'll do it here on the Better Sports Network with Howard Bender and James Grande. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be live at 5 p.m. We'll catch you guys later.